The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello everyone. You're welcome to Leadership Podcast. And of course, it's another edition of The Big Issue. And as usual, our in-house analysts are here. Together, we're going to take you on the big issue of the day, which is President Buhari's assent to the Petroleum Industry Bill and the issues at stake. And of course, with me here in the studio to look at the issue is Silas Ezeogu.
You're welcome.
It's Anthony Uko.
Thank you.
Sunday Isua.
It's nice to be here.
You are welcome to this program. And of course, for the big issue of the day, President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law, an act that will serve as the framework for the operations in the oil and gas industry. With this, the Petroleum Industry Bill became a reality 23 years after it was presented to the National Assembly for legislation in 2008. Of course, the bill aims at removing legal and regulatory uncertainties that have held back the industry's growth. The Petroleum Industry Act provides legal, governance, regulatory, and physical framework for the Nigerian petroleum industry, the development of host communities, and related matters. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawal, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Bajabiamila, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative all hail the President's assent to the bill as a development that will positively reshape the Nigeria's oil industry. But the signing of the bill was also greeted with fierce opposition from the People's Democratic Party, the socio-cultural body of the South, PANDEF, and of course the Ijaw Youth Council. They criticized the president for signing the bill into law without addressing most of the grievances raised by certain persons, especially those from the host community. And of course, the criticism trailing the president's assent to that bill borders on the disparity of the percentage that was given to the host community. It's, I think, 3%. I think the major issue here is that the president proceeded to sign the bill without giving a window for such issues to be addressed. Silas, was it right for the president to have signed that bill?
Yes.
Without addressing those issues as the opposition, PDP, and
yes, I'll say yes and no. Yes, that bill has lingered in the National Assembly for 23 years. Okay. If you're looking for those who are dispassionate about it, those who are looking from the industry point of view, they all applauded it from OPEC to Senate to 90 experts in the oil and gas industry and so on. They all applauded it because it opens up the business and bringing more investment and so on and so on. But in the part, those who are crying for are those who are looking at what they can get out of it for their own host communities, being that they're the ones suffering oil spill and oil-related environmental disaster, degradation, deprivation of their source of living, future farming, all those things. So they are actually talking from the point of view of they're the ones that are losing, suffering the heat of the world. And since this oil is coming from their area, they feel that they should have been considered since they have been crying for, foul, wolf since. And don't forget that Yar'Adua, when this bill started this journey, Yar'Adua actually proposed 10% existing for the host communities. But when subsequently, even when the president sent it as a president is also the Minister of Petroleum, was said to have sent in 2.5%. So the National Assembly, the Senate agreed for 3%, the rep for 5%, and when they had the committee of the whole, they came to 3%. So that's why they are all shouting. They're not saying the bill is a bad bill in the whole bill, but they also that what should come to them, as the community hosting the oil. Host community is small compared to what was proposed in the first place. And don't mind another thing that's even annoying to them is that they also pay 30% for oil exploration in frontal states. 30%. You see the gap? 30 for fresh prospecting of oil and only 3% for them. So look at what it. The Senate, the House of Assembly, House of Rep, that's donated by people from where oil is not found. And they just had, Democrats they say, the majority have their word, way, have their way. The majority can have their say, the majority will have their way. So, especially those from the north, where these frontier states are supposed to be cited, just voted 50% for themselves, and they deny these guys, where the oil is being found at the moment, they don't ask for just 5%, 2%. I think that president should have been a statesman. Okay? I said, okay, fine. Thank you for bringing this bill to this level, but this will have a point. Can you take it back and adjust it? Let us work around it so that this bill will be a win-win for every person. Because, mind you, that they have shown violence in the past when their needs are not met. There's nothing to stop, unless we can do some political movement and reach them out and stop them. But their youth can get angry and start busting the pipes, and that will destroy all the gains that this bill is going to what that confer on Nigeria and the industry players. So maybe you should have carried a bit, call them, because I don't even when they have been meeting the Joe leaders and the Goni leaders and all these data guys, and they also brought this thing to him. So maybe you should have waited a bit. It's okay, fine. Let us make sure that this bill is a win-win for everybody. Everybody is happy about it. The industry players are happy. The coast committee is happy. So that nothing will be a barrier to the bill achieving the fullest of what Nigeria is meant to achieve for us. Maybe we should have waited a bit.
Well, Madam Issa, you've heard what Silas said, but at the end of the day, let's look at the figures involved. We are 3%. And then he spoke of 30% for frontal stage. For frontal states.
Where they want to prosper for it.
Yes. If these monies, if these percentages, if they are now transformed into real cash, what does it amount to? Is the 3% really small when you look at it from the cash?
Okay, I think I would want to look at it that first of all, we are happy that after such a long time, this bill has been so protracted for a very long time, and it has robbed the country of so many investments that international organizations would have brought in over the years. So it's a welcome development that the bill has now been signed. It is now an act. So it is the Petroleum Industry Act. So it's the same. There has been outpour of accolades from everyone, as my colleagues there have mentioned. So it's a real welcome development. Now, zeroing in on the figures, the 3% for host communities, we have to differentiate here that the 3% is actually 3% of operating expenses of all the oil companies, international oil companies operating in the country. Those we have on ground right now, and those that we are going to have coming and investing in the country in the future. So that is then on the other hand, the 30% that has been allocated to frontier basin exploration is 30% of NNPC Limited profits on oil and gas. So those are two different things. Yes. Imagine a situation where we're talking, NNPC will be investing. NNPC now is like one entity and will be making investment in some things. They may not necessarily be the ones doing those things by themselves. For instance, a case in question now is that they are buying 20% stake in Dangote refinery when it comes on board. So that is a typical what profit will they make from that investment, and every other investment that they engage in going forward. That is what the 30% is talking about. So on the other hand, every exploration, every expenses that is made in the on the host community, everything will be aggregated together for a full year, and then 3% of that amount will now be used, will be transferred into the host community development fund that will be used to develop the host communities. So when we want to look at it that way, at the end of the day, the figures in real terms would definitely amount to something bigger than we are expecting, if you're that we are envisaging, if we are only taking a look at those figures from the point of 30% and 3%. So right now, because it's going to be a year-on-year activity, it is going to be based on that. So we don't have actual figures. You know, before now, the oil industry has been bugged with a whole lot of non-transparent operations. We hardly know most of the data that we should know, that should drive investment, and that is one of the primary reasons of the Petroleum Industry Act, to clean up the sector and ensure that whatever data we have accurate data with which to run. So going forward, as this is put together, we'll be able to see where the figure amounts to. But I would like to also bring up here that the group managing director of the NNPC has mentioned that the money meant for that 3% could amount to as much as $500 million in a single year. So I believe that if this is going to come on year, at the end of the day, it will be rather substantial, much more than the host communities may be anticipating.
By the time
Yes,
investors
of
come
course,
invest more.
yes, and though be that as it may, owing judging by the fact that the late President Yar'Adua proposed 10%, I think their agitation is also justified, in that this current administration, in trying to pass it, would have, let's say, taken a mid position of 5%, as the lower house had proposed.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. You saw, you heard what Inse has said, quoting the GMD of NNPC, who said it will amount to almost $500 million annually.
Good.
That is apart from when other investors would have actually come again to invest with the commercialization of
NNPC.
3%. What would you say?
Well, I think it's a fair deal. Even though when you look at the history, they say President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, who first introduced the bill, presented 10%. And even Buhari, when he was presenting it in the 8th Assembly, he suggested 5%. But when he was presenting it in the 9th Assembly, he presented 2.5%. So the committee, both in the House and in the Senate, actually jack it up to 5%. But when the day they were supposed to pass this bill, they invited the Minister of Petroleum, Minister of State for Petroleum, who is from the Niger Delta, Timi Pre Silva, and the Group Managing Director of NNPC, Mele Kyari. They were in the Red Chamber, and they now advise the lawmakers that, look, if you increase this percentage, it's not the government that is paying this 3%. It's the companies from their running costs. So if you jack up this percentage to a higher percent, many companies may not want to come and do business. But if you leave it at this 3% and the environment is conducive for the investors, more companies will come and more money will be made available for the host community. And I think that is a fair deal, because if there is peace in the Niger Delta, more companies will come and more money will be made available to the host community development trust fund. These are money that are sent directly to that account. Single individual cannot just spend that money. Any amount they want to spend, the community will have to sit down and say, okay, we want water, we want schools, we want this, we want that. And these are monies that are coming only from the companies. We still have NDDC. We still have other benefits that the host community will get, yes, from this bill. And actually, it's something that they should embrace. But one thing, if people are not satisfied, they need to kind of be patient, because legislation is a process. You know, by the next assembly, if they make the environment conducive for the companies to operate, and at the end of the day, they begin to enjoy some kind of benefit, by the next assembly, they can present an amendment to the bill, and the National Assembly will look into it and make sure that the right thing is done.
Okay, Elvia, let's just quickly take a short break, and we will be back on the big issue.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
You're welcome back to Leadership Podcast. And of course, that was just a short break to go take some commercials and some advert. And of course, we are still on the big issue. And of course, it is President Buhari's assent to the Petroleum Industry Bill and the issue at stake. Just like we were saying, in as much as this objection to the signing of the bill by the president without consultations and addressing some of the grievances raised, stakeholders have said that the signing of the bill into act itself has serious gains to the oil industry. It will shape this industry and then bring a lot of gains to the country in the oil sector. Madam said, what are some of these gains we are looking at?
Yeah. Before now, we had a situation where the system is shrouded in so much secrecy, and a whole lot of the operations did not meet with international best practices. So this act is going to clean up the industry, bringing in transparency into the sector, into the oil and gas sector, making it more attractive for foreign investors to be able to come in, and then ensuring that the processes that they have to go through, from the processes of registration to the all the requirements that they need, are made easily known, and they know how long. It will also shorten the time that it takes for all these approvals, all these licensing approvals to be gotten within the industry. So a lot of the bureaucratic bottlenecks that we saw in the past that has hampered real investment within the oil and gas industry will be eliminated. And in line with this, we have seen that the NNPC is being commercialized. It's government, they are taking out the regulatory function from the NNPC. It's purely a limited liability company that along the line we are looking at it being quoted on the Nigerian exchange, where others will, Nigerians like you and I, you can actually go and purchase shares in it, and then you'll be able to have a say in how it is governed. So, and also with that too, we are seeing the regulatory function being broken down into two, with the creation of the midstream and downstream regulatory agency, as well as the upstream regulatory commission. So this will kind of streamline their operations, so that companies that deal mainly on midstream or upstream, they would know where to go to, and their issues can be tackled fast and efficiently, more than it was before.
Okay, yeah. Silas, we heard what Inse said, that some part of the gain is that NNPC will be commercialized, and that will now make it a profit-oriented company that is devoid of political interference.
Yes.
But the question is, in Nigeria, where no matter how you operate, there's no way politics will not be factored in anything you do in certain institutions. How could this be possible?
Well, Nigeria is a very a special country, a new country. You see, as long as that NNPC is a Nigerian company, those at the helm of affairs will not allow it to give it the 100% autonomy that it craves. There's a spirit, letter and spirit of the law. The letters are there already. It will be signed. When the spirit behind it is what we want to find, whether the political will is there to allow it to give it that, freedom to operate, as a purely business entity, devoid of control. And we said this, yes, we'll go keep us alive, we'll watch and see. But it will be better for the authorities, there to allow the country to, this company to breathe. Because government has never been good in managing business. Government has never been good in managing business. the business that run. You know when we had all those corporations, United, all the corporations, that they sold, they run them down and so on. So, the government has not been good in managing business, and they should allow this law to, it took a long time to get it. They should allow it to come into effect so that this oil, will benefit Nigeria the way it should. What used to happen in the past was so terrible that I had a friend who was working in the National Planning Commission, yeah, national planning, and they want to make plans for budgeting purposes, and invited people from NBC to give them some figures, and they told them they won't give them, even if they put a gun to their head. They say they fought them for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. They say even if you put a gun to their head, they will not tell you certain details about what happening there. It's like a secret, in a court kind of short, close something. They won't. No, and it's also well known that Nigerians cannot even really determine how much oil we are producing. It's what those guys operating those oil companies tell us that they produce that we go with. They don't allow Nigerians to go to the point that know exactly how much oil we are getting. So they'll be ripping Nigeria off. But I believe that now they have come to be like this. All those secrecy, active banking, underhand trades will be thrown overboard, and Nigeria will begin to reap, the full benefit of our oil where it should be.
Yes. Instead, you heard what Silas said, that the idea of NNPC with its commercialization becoming devoid of political interference is quite difficult. But you say it is possible. And of course, we've heard that with this act in place now, Nigeria can be able to recoup some of the losses, especially some estimates given by NETI when it say about $200 billion that was lost could be recouped before the big oil goes into extinction.
Okay.
How can they achieve this to recoup such big amounts? And of course, how can the NNPC be sanitized with this act so that at the end of the day, certain things that were shrouded in secrecy, just like Silas said, can be made in the open so that there will be transparency and accountability?
Yeah, I think the act it has already set NNPC on that path, but it will take the will for us to want it to actually be run transparently and for the benefit of all, for this to work out. For instance, there's plan for it to be listed, and for that to happen, at this point, NNPC, though it is a commercial company, is still fully owned by government. And as long as that remains so, we are not going to see this our desires of transparency, of having a lot of gains from that provision. But if governments can actually step up and divest of a lot of its holding, open it to the public so that a whole other people can come in, hold a minority stake, or maybe like it did in the power sector, have like 40, of course from 49% is minority. So when it is like that, a lot of what goes in there will be determined by the other shareholders who form the majority. So, but if government still holds on to majority holding, or it still remains fully owned by government, we are not likely to see much difference, because going by what happens if a firm with Nigerian firms like experts in the house, Mr. Salas have pointed out. So that the line to toe is divestment of government holding, so that we can bring in the private sector who would have a fresh idea, who would overhaul the entire system and make it run more efficiently. And again, like you said, you mentioned about being able to recoup some of the losses in the past. For now, NNPC is actually a private company. So its own is to look for investment that is viable and invest in it and make profit for its owners. So we will just have to move away from NNPC and go into the regulatory bodies that will be set up. The two regulatory bodies that will be set up to manage the downstream, the midstream, and the upstream sectors of the industry. So that is where we would see much of the gains, much savings coming in from. And one major area that is going to bring a lot of improvements, especially in government finances, even though at the detriment or great suffering of the people, is the area of subsidy removal. This act now automatically removes subsidy from petroleum products.
Sorry to cut you, Nse. Subsidy removal is a big development because they say it's a huge fraud.
Yes.
Even within government sector, they describe it as a huge fraud.
Yes.
But remember what happened when NEPA was unbundled and it became PACN. I think it was a similar thing with NEPA. But I think power in the country didn't improve after NEPA was privatized and was unbundled. Now, with the removal of subsidy, when you talk of making petrol available for the common man, what do you think the masses will suffer most when the price of fuel begins to increase? You know, see what people are suffering when it comes to electricity tariff.
Definitely, the masses should just brace up. There are no two ways about this.
That will be
Yes, that things will be high. Look at it now. Subsidy is not removed, but the food inflation in the country, the prices of food are so expensive. You can imagine when subsidy is removed and the cost of transportation doubles. What will be the effect on food, and we are not seeing any plan by government to increase wages. So that is what the labor is also tackling, to ensure that government takes actions that will ameliorate this the outcome, the impact of this on the people. Otherwise, it's it's going to be definitely.
I don't think the issue will be as tough as you are talking about. Being tough may just be temporal, because this bill is actually, making it easy for investors to come and invest. The problem we have is that we don't refine this oil in the country.
But you see, I'm sorry to cut you short. I'm not stopping you, but remember what happened when they say NEPA was unbundled and it became they allowed. You know what people suffered and what is suffering? Hike in electricity tariff.
The NEPA issue was quite different from this one. The people who were coming to buy the distribution companies, they did not have any infrastructure they invested. You understand? They did not invest anything. In fact, government even borrowed them money to buy those companies. So you can't compare the two. That one was a fraud, and I think this one is quite different from the other one. This one is to allow people who have the money to come and invest. And once people begin to establish refineries, or people who have the money that they can import fuel and make it available to Nigerians, people will buy. So the more companies we have, the easier it will be. In fact, just like the mobile telecommunication, you know how much people were buying SIM cards and all that. But when more companies came in, SIM card is now free.
Please,
so
if I may cut in here,
yes,
we should just not even begin to consider the issue of continuing to import fuel, because Nigeria has a whole lot of, we have 40 years proven reserve of crude. So we have no business importing refined petrol.
No, it's just
Because
business. It's business.
when you import refined product, you are going to want to sell it at the prevailing international price.
It depends where you buy this product. If I'm a businessman and I'm buying this product in Niger to sell it in Maiduguri and I will make my profit, I will make it available to the people.
Where does Niger get it from? Niger gets it from the international market. Right now, Nigeria is feeding all these our neighboring countries because the NNPC has been importing petrol and has been subsidizing it. So the people can buy it cheaper in Nigeria and take it outside to Niger, to Cameroon, to Chad, to all those, and sell at higher prices. So that has been the issue. So you cannot say that you go and buy petrol from Niger and come and sell it cheaper in Nigeria.
Of course. Now, people are saying that petroleum product is being hoarded, and as we speak now in Cameroon, the prices are lower compared to Nigeria that have the oil. So how did it happen? It's just about where you are going to get these products and your market. And that is why I'm saying that if businessmen and women, people who know that if they invest in this sector, they can be able to make their money, then more products will come. People will not care where the product is coming from. If you have your refinery in Maiduguri and people cannot get your product at a cheaper rate, and another person is importing the product from another country and people are getting it at a cheaper rate, which one will they go for? They'll go for the cheaper rate.
Silence, you've heard Ijaw from Isuwa and you see their position. What do you stand in all this?
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is allow market economy to take off.
Yeah.
First of demand and supply. And what I hope in the interim, like I said, the price will rise, the most sources will rise, and coupled with the fact that the economy is already biting. I think almost about 70 million Nigerians are living below the poverty line, and I'm sure that it's much more than that. The figure is a lot more than that. The purchasing power of most Nigerians has been shot to pieces. Already, we're talking about how to collect more money from toll gates. Motorists will pay. You see, you're catching motorists, they'll pay more to cross the road, just to go on the road. To pay from toll gates, they will pay more money to license their motor, their cars, their vehicles. They'll now go to pay more to put fare. So, do you know what the cost of transportation and cost of production? And that will translate to every other thing. Already, even government is not even for those who are even in government pay. Already, most states are not even able to pay the minimum wage as it is already. So, we're still paying the old minimum wage, which the purchasing power has gone down by more than down 6. So, it's going to be tough in the interim. What I'm hoping is that along the way, like Isu has said, that the price will come down and start. Now, when you have more people coming to the market, and possibly if there are people who take the like Nando is already doing, should buy from the Nigerian oil market. It doesn't have to import. They cut down the cost of importing for refining.
Of course.
You understand? So that could help to bring down the cost of fuel, so that in the long run, the price will come down to what Nigerians can afford. But at the moment, it will shoot up and there will be cries.
Yes. And
Shooting up
how long will it?
We don't know how long it is.
Now, if you are saying how long, shooting up is an opportunity for some people to invest in that particular area, because people will see it as an opportunity for them to make money.
Yes.
And just like the telecommunication that I stated earlier, more people will want to invest in that area. And as people are investing, the prices will be going down. So it will be a necessary evil that we will have to take, because this thing has been there for many years, and we just have to take the challenge and make sure that we get it right.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. We're rounding up, but before we go, I think we throw this back to Inse. Before people come to invest, investors come in, and then the competition gets high, and then begins to make the prices of fuel petroleum products will become within the range at which Nigerians can be able to afford. How do you think Nigerians can cushion the effect of what we are going to expect before we arrive at that situation?
I have heard government talking about a whole some things, just using the word ameliorate. I have not actually seen it in tangible terms. What they are saying, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do. But I think that government has to revisit that word ameliorate and come up with
Something practical.
packages, something practical that will be able to absorb this
They
program.
have such things on ground.
Program.
NNPC has filling stations, and they will not be selling at the same price other companies will be selling. They have NNPC stations everywhere. When it happened before, NNPC stations was selling at the same price fixed by the government, but other businesses, other companies were allowed to sell at the price they want to sell in order to make profit. So these are the amelioration that they are talking about.
Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of the big issue. And of course, Via, you've heard it all. The signing of the Petroleum Industry Bill into law is a welcome development. An act that is said to will change the oil industry for good. Though the opposition that trailed it had to do with the fact that the president went ahead to assent to it without consultation, especially the host communities that are crying foul, that 3% is too small to allot to the host community. But be that as it may, we'll leave this to you to decipher and, of course, interrogate within you. And then as we watch, let's see how it goes. I think this is the much we can take for the big issue for today. And of course, let me just say a big thank you to our in-house analysts that have been able to give us an insight into the implications and the gains of the signing of the bill into law means for Nigeria. Isuwa, thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
being a part of this program. And Silas, you've done well. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of the big issue. For now, it's goodbye.